Today I'm going to be ranking Reddit's top skincare tips. I'm going to be talking about the science behind them, if there's any, and then ranking them on this scale. I know it's a bit of a cliche that news sites steal content ideas from Reddit, but since I donated thousands of hours to modding it in the past, it's not as bad if I do it, I think. Hi, I'm Michelle of Lab Muffin Beauty Science, Chemistry PhD, cosmetic chemist, and big fan of cheap skincare tips. Like I said, I was a moderator on Reddit's skincare addiction forum for about 4 years, so I've seen a lot of these tips before, and now I'm seeing a lot of them again being recycled on places like TikTok. How I got this list? It's not the most robust methodology. I searched Reddit using Google because that is what you do. I looked up skincare tips and skincare hacks, and then I went through the top 50 search results for each of those, and I looked for posts that had over 100 upvotes. Then I took the top 10 comments of those, tallied them up, and then got the top 10, and here they are in reverse order. This time with my ranking, I'm going to make it clear this is how much of a difference I think they'll make for people in general. So if one of these tips will work really well for a tiny group of people, I will talk about that, but it's probably not going to score that well on this rubric, so keep that in mind. Number 10 is slugging. This actually showed up a lot less than I expected. Slugging is when you put on a really thin layer of Vaseline or petroleum jelly as your final step at night. You put it on over the rest of your skincare and then you go to sleep and you end up shiny, a bit like a slug, which is where that name came from. Back when the name slugging was invented, this was when snail was also really popular on Reddit, probably around 2014-ish. So it seemed to make sense that this would also be like, I don't know, another mollusk-related name. Your skin is more permeable at night, there is higher transepidermal water loss, and what that means is you have lots of water evaporating. That means your skin can dry out more easily, and so you end up wanting to trap in water more, which this works really well for because petrolatum is the gold standard occlusive. It's really good at sealing in water. The other thing that happens is your skin can get dried out and itchy and tight, and again, this helps prevent that. On top of that, more hydrated skin can also let in some skincare ingredients a bit more easily into the skin, so this can also have an effect of helping your skincare ingredients penetrate a bit more deeply. Slugging went viral again on TikTok not that long ago. It's very weird being a bit of a dinosaur in internet years because this seems like such an ancient trend to me. And of course, even before Reddit, people's grandmas were doing this, so yeah, not a new hack. I do like this because it is a very cheap hack, and a lot of people do have a jar of Vaseline lying around that they will never get to the bottom of, so it is something that I think most people can try without too much risk. Some people have asked me about the environmental impact, and it should be pretty low because petroleum jelly is a byproduct of oil. As long as we are digging up petroleum to burn in cars, then petroleum jelly is going to be quite cheap because it doesn't require a lot of extra resources to make. I've talked about this before in my video on environmental claims, so check that out if you're interested. The downsides of this is, first off, your skin gets really sticky and your hair and cat fur and dust just gets stuck to your face. It's pretty annoying, a bit off-putting. It can also potentially push irritants deeper into your skin. Again, if it's pushing active ingredients, it is also pushing other things as well. So that can potentially make your skincare a bit too much for you. But otherwise, I think it is definitely worth a try for most people. So I'm going to put that up here in yes. Less is more, or you don't need 10 steps. I think this is a very good tip. There are a lot of products out there that don't really have proven benefits, and a lot of skincare products overlap in what they do. So if you're using a whole bunch of things, there's probably something not really necessary in there that you can cut out and you can save time and money, and probably also prevent freaking out your skin too much. If you have sensitive skin, then the more stuff you use, the higher the risk of using something that might interact with your skin in a bad way. And by bad way, I don't really mean like permanent damage. It's probably more just like irritation. There are also a lot more multifunctional products out there these days, so you can probably cut down on the number of products you're using. And I think there is a lot of mindless consumerism going on. People get excited over products that they see on social media. They start buying it before thinking about whether it actually fits into their skincare routine in a way that makes sense. Also, when people do this, they tend to introduce way too many products to their skin at the same time. Like you get the parcel, you open it, and then you just slap everything on your skin. As well as freaking out your skin, that also means that you can't really tell what is actually working. This is something that we use a lot in experimental design and science. We control the variables. That means we keep everything constant except for one thing which we change. And that means if we only change one thing, then if we have something changing in our skin, we have an outcome changing, there is a higher chance of that thing that we changed having caused that outcome. So I don't think I explained that very well, but basically if you change one thing and one thing changes, then the link between those is going to be a lot stronger. You can make a much stronger conclusion about it. Anyway, at the same time, I don't entirely subscribe to the whole everything other than 3 products is a waste of time and money. Some people's skin can benefit from extra steps and having extra bits in their routine. Some people do also just have fussier skin, and there aren't 2 perfectly formulated products on the market that address all their needs. They have to kind of fudge it a bit more with more different products. So essentially, everyone's skin is different. I highly recommend working out your own skin needs and concerns and then narrowing it down that way and not getting swept up in hype about products. If you want a guide to working out your skin needs and concerns and figuring out a basic routine that works for your skin, you can check out my ebook. So I'm going to put that in solid. I think if it says sometimes less is more, then I would agree with that a bit more, but yeah, it's not something that works for everyone. On to number 8, which is sleep on your back. So there are 2 main reasons that people recommend this. Number 1 is something called sleep lines. Sleep lines are a special type of wrinkle that are vertical. The reason we get wrinkles is it's a combination of skin quality and repeated creasing. With skin quality, it's stuff like how much collagen you have, how thick your skin is. The thinner and more uneven it is, the more likely it is to form a wrinkle with the same sorts of forces. The other part of wrinkles is repeated creasing, so things like crow's feet, expression lines on like your forehead and between your brows. That's why getting Botox injections can help with wrinkles, because it stops your muscles from repeatedly creasing those things and kind of etching that temporary wrinkle that you get in motion into a permanent crease. So as well as expression lines, we also sleep for about 8 hours a day, and our heads are heavy. So if you're kind of smushing your face in sideways or like frontwards into your pillow every day with the whole weight of your head, then you can get these creases on your face. These creases tend to go up and down on your face, and they don't line up with any other sort of expression, so it has to pretty much come from sleeping in particular positions. So sleeping on your back is a way of avoiding this, and there are products like pillows that purposely try to make you sleep on your back. There's also a sort of practical aspect, which is just not getting all your stuff on your face onto your pillow and vice versa. So you're keeping your skincare working on your skin and not working on your pillow. Your pillow also stays cleaner for longer, and you don't have extra dirt and, hair oil and sweat from 4 days ago going back onto your face. So this can make a big difference for some people who have acne, for example. The problem with this tip though is you also don't want to sacrifice your quality of sleep. Some people can get used to a new sleep position pretty easily, some people cannot. For example, if you have sleep apnea issues, then you might not be able to sleep on your back without having really disturbed sleep. So this is a bit of a your mileage will vary kind of tip. I wouldn't recommend this to absolutely everyone, but if you are worried about sleep lines, or if you are finding that your skin is getting aggravated by getting gunk from your pillow onto it, then this is probably worth a try. This will go somewhere between meh and solid. I think I'm going to put it in solid, and I might reconsider it. Number 7 is oily and acne-prone skin can need moisturizer. This one I really like because it applies to me. This is actually one of the things that got me into skincare in the first place. I had oily and acne-prone skin. I went for years trying to find good solutions. A lot of that involved putting alcohol on my skin and just drying out my skin a lot. Then at some point I started putting on glycerin-based moisturizer on my skin and rosehip oil, and that made a huge difference. My skin actually improved a whole bunch. And it seemed really counterintuitive at the time, but now it makes perfect sense because oil and water are not the same thing. If your skin produces enough of its own oil, that oil is actually, first off, not very good at sealing in water. And secondly, the oil from your skin is not exactly the same as the oil that you're putting on in skincare products. Your skin oil oxidizes easily, and when it oxidizes, it can harden and then start clogging up your pores. It can also irritate your skin, so if you're putting on other oils onto your skin, it can change the composition of oils on your skin overall. One of the reasons this makes such a big difference is that water is really important for your skin. It signals to your skin to do certain things. For example, if your skin is more hydrated, then it actually exfoliates itself a bit more easily. So a lot of people who have oily acne-prone skin, they might try to dehydrate their skin because they think that their skin is oily, it needs less oil. And then what happens is your skin doesn't exfoliate itself properly, it doesn't desquamate properly is the technical term. Instead, it starts coming off in big, chunky flakes. This tip won't work for everyone. Obviously, it is only really for people who have oily skin who were drying out their skin in the first place. And some moisturizers can possibly make things worse as well. So this is a bit of a niche tip again, but I think it is useful. I'm going to put it in I'm going to have to put it in meh, even though I like this tip a lot, just because it doesn't really apply to everyone, but it does apply to a lot of people who tend to be on skincare addiction because that subreddit is mostly for younger people who tend to have more acne problems. Number 6 is use hyaluronic acid or moisturizer on damp skin. This one is a bit complex. Where this comes from is humectants. Humectants are one of the 3 main types of moisturizers. They're the ones that work by holding onto water. So they latch onto water and that slows it from evaporating. Now there is all this stuff from the internet where it says if you have more humid weather, then it's going to grab water from the atmosphere and, drag it down to your skin. But if you have a dry climate, then it is going to pull water out of your skin and dry it out. None of this is really supported by the evidence. Everyone has transepidermal water loss, which is water evaporating through the top layers of the skin from the epidermis. So basically, your insides are like 70% water and then it lowers as it gets up. So yeah, water is constantly evaporating off your skin. That's probably the main source of where the humectants get their water. They just grab onto this water as it goes past. Now, in a hyaluronic acid product or a moisturizer, you're going to have a lot of water. Generally, it is going to be upwards of 60% water, probably closer to 80% most of the time. This is more than enough water to saturate all the water binding spots on hyaluronic acid or any other humectant in your product. So adding extra water is really not necessary. It's already holding on to the maximum water. If you add extra water, it's just going to be floating around away from the humectant. It's not going to make a difference. But it does feel like it's making a difference. And I think one of the main reasons is that your skin just has more water at the start. Your skin is just wetter, so it feels immediately more hydrated rather than having to wait for that transepidermal water loss to start getting trapped by whatever occlusives, for example, that you have in your moisturizer. And this extra water can take a while to evaporate, so yeah, your skin does feel a bit more hydrated at the start. But if you went off and tested your skin maybe an hour or 2 hours afterwards, I don't think there would be that much of a difference. One situation where I do think this can make a big difference is if you are coming out of the shower. You've been in the shower, your skin has been soaking in water for a fair bit. If you put on moisturizer immediately, that can make a difference compared to putting on moisturizer, say, 15 minutes afterwards. And that's because water does actually make skin more permeable. It's kind of ironic, you're adding more water and that water makes your skin lose water more easily. So if you quickly slap on an occlusive when your skin is still wet, then that just sort of slows down that evaporation, that boosted evaporation. Anyway, long story short, if you like having extra water, then use it. If you don't like using extra water, don't feel like you have to because, your moisturizers are stealing your water. I'm going to put that one in meh. It's entirely a preference thing. Tip number 5, use less actives or exfoliants, so rotate through them and use more soothing and hydrating products. This is pretty similar to the less is more tip. I think people do tend to do a bit too much to their skin, especially when they're starting out with skincare, when they're in that sort of excited phase, when they're just buying things and slapping stuff onto their face and trying to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. And I think this tends to happen a lot, especially with people who are using harsher products to try to attack their acne. They're kind of thinking, if I attack my skin, then I can beat it into submission. But the problem with that is, of course, irritation and inflammation can actually contribute to acne. A lot of people also overdo it with exfoliants, and that means you thin down your skin barrier a bit too much, those dead layers of cells on the top of your skin. Those are meant to protect the rest of your skin, the living layers, from the environment. If you thin it too much, then your skin does really tend to suffer. It gets irritated more easily, it gets inflamed, it gets itchy, it's just not really doing its job properly. And it takes a while to recover as well. You have to sort of just bench your skin for 2-3 weeks. I have a video with my friend Hannah on how to recover after doing this. And again, like I mentioned before, hydration can also help with exfoliation. You don't have to just use harsh exfoliants. So I'm probably going to put this into solid. I think it is a tip that will work for most people. Most people should probably try every once in a while to just slow down on their products and see if that actually makes a difference to their skin. Because if it does, then you're going to save a lot of time and money. Next tip is change your pillowcases more. I kind of talked about this before in the sleeping on your back part. This is all about having a dirty pillowcase and how that can sometimes contribute to people's acne. Again, acne is probably the most common skin problem on skincare addiction. There was even a product that was dedicated to this idea. It was like a pillowcase, and then on top there were like layers of pillowcase material. So you could use one each day and then like peel off the top layer, chuck that in the laundry, have a fresh layer, and then after, can't remember how many days, you would get to the bottom, and then by then your old sheets were coming back out of the wash. I've also seen people recommending putting t-shirts onto your pillow as like extra pillowcase covers. I think this tip can work really well for some people, but again, it is a subset of people. A lot of acne does come from factors other than just having dirty stuff on your face. So because it is such a limited technique, I'm probably going to put it into meh. Tip number 3 is avoid saturated sugars and oils, or cut out dairy or heal your gut. Generally, diet and food advice. I am really not a fan of dietary advice on the internet. You can see that all of these are actually pretty restrictive, like saturated sugars and oils are in a lot of foods, dairy is often a lot of people's diet, and healing your gut is just very general. I think if you start looking up healing your gut, you end up down some very weird rabbit holes. So if you suddenly start following these really restrictive eating rules, you can end up with a really imbalanced diet, and it can even lead to eating disorders. I've even seen some dermatologists, mostly younger dermatologists, giving this sort of dietary advice on places like TikTok. From talking to a lot of dermatologists, if they're a bit more older and experienced, they tend to have seen some of these issues in their patients already, so they are a lot more cautious about giving this sort of advice, and some dermatologists have themselves been affected by it. And there is some evidence that eating lower GI foods can potentially help with acne and cutting out certain types of dairy, but it does need a lot of caveats because the evidence for diet influencing your skin is just so much less solid than for things like products and particular ingredients. I talked about this in a video collaboration I did with Dr. Anjali Mato, and she's also written some articles on it that you can check out. I think the way that the British Association of Dermatologists phrased this advice is really quite good. It's possibly written by Anjali. Basically what they say is, if you've noticed that a particular food might be causing changes in your skin, then try skipping that particular food for a while and observe what happens to your skin. Then introduce it back into your diet and see what happens. So notice that this is about a specific food and not like a whole food group or a whole chunk of your diet. And also it's time limited, so it's like guiding you how to do this experiment on yourself and not just saying avoid all of this stuff, which is probably not that healthy. So I'm going to put this in no, because I think it does probably introduce more problems than it solves in general for people. But if you are going to try it, make sure there is a limit in terms of the foods involved. Just try to minimize that, as well as minimizing the time period that you're going to try it. Tip number 2 is use tretinoin or use retinol. Pretty straightforward advice. I think this is really good advice. Retinoids are just a really good all-rounder class of ingredient. They tackle so many skin concerns. If you have gone towards skincare for a reason, then it is probably going to tick off one of your reasons. They can increase collagen, which reduces wrinkles. They can increase skin turnover, which reduces acne. It also smooths out your skin and helps reduce pigment. It also normalizes pigment production. It also acts as an antioxidant. So yeah, they also have the most evidence for them helping with a whole bunch of things. Some people's skin can't really tolerate it very well, but these days there are so many products on the market. There are much more gentle ones. There are ones that are formulated specifically for people who have issues with irritation. So I'm pretty sure there is a retinoid out there for you. I'm going to put this up all the way at yes. Finally, tip number 1, I don't think this comes as a surprise to anyone. It's just wear sunscreen. Again, this is really good advice. It is something that can help with pretty much all skin conditions. UV contributes to everything. It contributes to wrinkles. It contributes to increased pigment. It also increases inflammation, which then indirectly leads to acne, as well as making a whole bunch of other skin conditions worse, like rosacea. Chances are you are using skincare to try to address one of these things that UV undoes, so you are kind of wasting your money on skincare if you're not also protecting your skin from further damage by UV. I do find that Reddit sometimes goes overboard with the sun avoidance. Back when I was moderating, I would come across a lot of posts that were like, if you can see sunlight, you need to wear sunscreen. People would ask questions like, do I need to wear sunscreen to bed if I can see a little bit of sunlight peeking out from around my curtains? I think that sort of hyperfocus can be a bit unhealthy, and this is one of the reasons why I made this video talking about how much sun you get indoors. I think in general, people tend to see things in black and white, so sun versus no. It's also a thing in clean beauty, like does this have parabens, yes or no? Does this ingredient cause cancer, yes or no? But when you start looking at things like dose, how much you're getting, how much UV, how much parabens, then you can start to see what does and doesn't make a difference. And of course, this changes depending on your skin as well and your own susceptibility to sun, but there are very, very few people in the world who are sun sensitive enough to have to wear sunscreen to bed. But yeah, wearing sunscreen definitely belongs on the top tier. So those were my rankings of Reddit's top skincare tips. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if there's an obvious tip that's missing from here. I've been really enjoying doing these ranking videos because they're a bit more chatty. We can go into a bit more deep discussion about things and not just focus on technical stuff, which is a lot of my other videos. So let me know if you have any other ideas for ranking videos. If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. There are more skincare videos popping up around me, so check those out as well.